that so many of you have joined us this evening on what is here in London anyway, a beautiful sunny evening. And here we are gazing at our screens again, but for a very good reason, that we're going to hear all about birds in Albania, which is a subject which we haven't covered before, I don't think, in the Anglo-Albanian Association. And it's a great pleasure, particularly to me, to host another event featuring a leading member of the PPNEA. This stands for Protection and Preservation of the Natural Environment in Albania. And this is a very important organization, which is the foremost environmental NGO in Albania, which was founded in 1991. And this illustrated talk will be given by Zydjon Vorpsi, Johnny Vorpsi, who will be talking about the bird population of the country and measures to conserve this population. I'll just say a few words that Johnny has himself prepared, which describe his career in this environmental field. He's been working for 5 years at the PPNEA, which is the first environmental organization to be founded in the country in 1991, as I said. These past 5 years, his main focus has been the study and the protection of birds in the country. And he's been working as a coordinator in the wetland management and Dalmatian pelican conservation area in the Mediterranean Basin Program. Later, he has been leading the work against bird crimes at the PPNEA with the support of the Adriatic Flyway 4 project, working to create a safer flyway in Albania for migratory birds and to tackle issues such as the illegal killing of birds, poisoning, and electrocution. In the meantime, he has been running the campaign against the construction of Vlora Airport, and perhaps he'll tell us more about that in his talk, which he says he describes as being inside the Vjosa-Narta protected landscape, which is one of the most important sites for migratory birds along the Adriatic Flyway. So we will have a lot more detail of that in Johnny's talk, and I'm certainly looking forward to it. And I would just tell you that over the last few years, we've had some very good direct links with the PPNEA, starting with a talk by the Executive Director, Alexander Traitse, who gave us a very insightful talk on the critically endangered Balkan lynx. Since then, we've enjoyed talks on forestry management in Albania and on the PPNEA's role in the Prespa Lakes region, where there is transboundary collaboration between Albania, Kosovo, North Macedonia, and Greece. Maybe we'll hear a bit more about that from Johnny in the context of the bird life. This talk is one of a series of centenary talks to mark 100 years of diplomatic relations between Albania and the United Kingdom. I would mention that in the pipeline, we have another talk which is also very relevant to that centenary. And this is one for your diaries, I think. This is on the 12th of July. We'll be hosting a talk by historian, author Neil Rees, who is familiar to many of you because he's given talks to us before. He'll be talking about the role of Durrës as capital of Albania during the 1920s and 30s. And he will be giving us some insight into the British embassy in Durrës. That's certainly one I'm going to have in my diary. And in August, we may possibly be doing what most people do in August, going off on holiday, but to resume in September. And in September, on the 28th, we have our annual general meeting, and we are planning to have a talk on filmmaking in Albania, the film industry, which has, since the political changes in Albania since the beginning of the 90s, had its ups and downs, but there have been some very good films made during that new period. And we hope we will be hearing from Fjoralba, who is our main contact person in the film, Fjoralba Miraka, who is our main film correspondent, if you like. If you're not already a member of the AAA, please consider joining, just to make sure that you receive invitations to further events and activities. And for more information on membership and how to join, you can go to www.anglo-albanian.org.uk/become a member with hyphens, and that is it, I think. So anyway, I'll just repeat that website, which is www.anglo-albanian with a hyphen .org.uk, becoming a member. Very good. And I think that is it from me for the moment. And I have great pleasure in introducing and handing over to Zydjon Vorpsi, who I think you will find has a fascinating story to tell about birds in Albania. Over to you, Johnny.
Thanks, Stephen. Thank you for the invitation in first place. I accepted with a big pleasure, and I'm really pleased to be here. It's a pity that we can't meet in person this time, but even though this setup, it's really comfortable as I see, and I'm really comfortable in talking to you, and I hope to see all of your faces in the end, because there will be a question and answers session, and as it was mentioned before, and for our good luck, this Zoom application can pin the people, and so I can see all of you face to face in that session. I'm starting to share my screen now. If I have to please enable the screen sharing, because it's disabled for me in this moment. It's okay.
Is that okay now, Yoni?
Not yet. Not yet.
Sorry, folks.
Right. Now it's okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Thank you. So, as it was mentioned, I'm about to talk for the birds of Albania. I will try to keep it as simple as understandable for all of you. I don't know if anyone has any experience with birds before, or is some passionate about bird watching. So I will mention all the bird names that will appear in my slides, and also explain what those slides means. Birds of Albania. Albania is known as a country of land of eagles and castles, and so it has a rich nature, and it's called like that because the castles are, of course, some important part of the history, and also now provide shelter to many bird species or wildlife species, because some of them are ruined or just used as touristic places. And but on the other hand, the nature, some part of the Albanian nature is still intact. And Albania, with diverse landscape that it has provides diverse habitats. In a small area within a 28,000 kilometers square, you can find the mountains, the Alps, the sea coast, the lakes, and the free-flowing rivers, which create, on the other hand, coastal wetlands, which are really rich with biodiversity and really important to it. This picture here is from Lake Prespa. It's, as was mentioned before, it's a transboundary area between North Macedonia, Greece, and Albania. It provides many habitats. It has the alpine pastures, and it also has the lake shore and islands, and the agricultural field, and somehow tells all about the diversity of habitats in Albania. Birds are known also to unite the world. That because they are migratory, they fly from country to country, and so to provide protection to them, we should do some common measures, or to get all involved as countries to protect the flyways, or this important habitat for this common heritage. And with all these diverse habitats, Albania is sheltered to 360 and 90 species of birds. But of course, not all of these birds can be seen during nowadays. These are all birds that are registered during the history of Albania, when the bird study started. So these birds are in groups of resident species, which are birds that stay all of the year in our country and spend the winter, also summer. They can breed or not breed, but they stay in our territory. And they are migratory species, which are, with migratory here, I mean species that use our country just to pass and to refuel or to go in the other countries. And there are wintering birds which come down to our country from northern areas to spend the winter, because the north of the planet starts to get, like, the wetlands mostly start to get frozen. So our country provides food to those species, and also the breeding birds, which spend the summer here to breed and to reproduce. The species on the picture is the black wing stilt. It's a really nice species to be observed and for bird watchers. It can be found mostly in our coastal wetlands. As I said, it's a migratory species, so it migrates from Africa to Albania and breeds here. On the other hand, as I mentioned, Albania, it's an important site for wintering birds, and the wetlands are the main habitats for these wintering birds. It's during the winter time, we can find here, these are numbers given by the national census made in Albania. We can find around 150,000 birds. And from these numbers, there are around 60 species of birds. On the other hand, as I mentioned before, this species of birds, this important heritage and common heritage, requires common measures to protect the birds. So to protect them, there are some international designations, such as important bird areas, which are proclaimed by BirdLife and BirdLife International, and based on the data provided by national and international experts. On the other hand, there are the key biodiversity areas. There are the emerald sites, which are proposed by the country based on the national data, and the Ramsar sites, which we have 4. Ramsar sites are wetlands of international importance. Sorry. So I'm giving again feedback on PPNEA. PPNEA is the first environmental NGO in Albania, and it was founded by the professor, a scientist who was called Legjik Nuri. He is the one watching on the scope the Dalmatian pelicans in Vjosa-Narta lagoon, which is on the western part of the country. He founded this organization right after the communism regime. So after like almost 50 years of dictatorship, Albanian people were free somehow because the communism regime was kind of the harshest in Europe. And in that moment, the last thing that people would think about was the nature protection and trees and species of birds and mammals. And this professor gathered around him many other professors and students, and he said, okay, we'll protect the environment. And somehow, as Nietzsche said, it was not understood by other people. So the one who were seen dancing in this moment were thought to be insane by those who couldn't hear the music. But what is happening nowadays is that PPNEA is enlarged by 17 people in the staff, and it's the oldest and biggest organization in Albania, environmental NGO, I mean. So, but also the work to protect birds started back from the creation of PPNEA. It started with activities to address issues which affected bird populations, and mainly to protect important habitats for birds. One of them was also the case of Vjosa-Narta, which with the lobby of PPNEA was proclaimed as a Ramsar site. And also the contribution given on creating the Prespa Lake, proclaiming it as a national park. Our main pillars to do the work and to protect these amazing species are the scientific research, which gives us a strong hand when we go on the table to lobby and advocate for the nature protection. It's education and awareness, which has been one of the pillars since the creation of PPNEA, and training and capacity building for others, but also for the inner staff. And all of these pillars create something really important for the protection of nature, which is networking. And somehow it's also what is happening now. So it has followed us and keeps on following us and being one of like the heart of our work. In Albania, there have been habitat loss. There have been important species extincted, where there have been like huge population or colonies destroyed. So this one is the colony of herons in Kunevain, which is in northern Albania. It's a coastal wetland, and it's the first protected area in Albania. It was protected back then as a managed reserve for hunting activity, but still there were the access to the area was really limited, and it was protected. So, but this colony was destroyed and was lost in '96. But one good thing that happened is that it was revitalized in during 2019. And we have been monitoring it for the 3 years to come, like the last 3 years from 2019. And fortunately, it is there, and there is awareness going on to protect this and not to lose it again. On the other hand, there is also another colony of herons in Vjosa-Narta lagoon, and which is the most important wetland in Albania. these are the only 2 colonies of herons in the country. And in the picture is the chick of the little egret. What we are working now, we are really focused on the important habitats and the species which are endangered. So by protecting the habitats and doing some actions to protect the species endangered, of course, we serve also to other species and to the well-working ecosystems. White stork is one of the endangered species in our country. It has from the last year's monitoring, there are the last 7 remaining breeding pairs. The main issue has been the destroying of the nests and the nesting places, but also the loss of habitats. Still, hopefully, there is a lot of habitat still left, but there are not enough breeding spaces for the white stork in Albania. So what we have done is putting the platforms that you can see on the screen. On the power pylons, the high voltage power pylons, which remove the risk of electrocution, because the big risk is on lower voltage power pylons. And this is one of the cases where the birds had accepted the nest and have started breeding in it. When this action started, there were only 4 breeding, if I'm not wrong, 4 or 5 breeding pairs in Albania. Now are 7, and there are reports that this year many of other areas have observations of white stork and also attempts for nest creation. As I said, it was built on a high voltage power pylon, and it was like this in the beginning, just the platform. They started putting the sticks and doing all the work and construction, and they seem to be really good on that. This picture is on 2019. The other picture is on 2020, and many of the materials that they were put, they couldn't be removed by the strong winter. This was in 2021. And this is the picture from today from our live cameras that we have placed in front of this nest. So it's easy to notice that this is going really strong and enlarging. On the other hand, we have the Egyptian vulture, the magnificent vulture, which is the last remaining vulture species in Albania. In Europe, there are 4 species of vultures. There is the cinereous vulture, or the black vulture, also called. There is the bearded vulture, and also the griffon vulture. And last but not least is the Egyptian vulture, which is the only one breeding in our country. And the other one that can be seen sometimes, rarely, in the country is the griffon vulture. Meanwhile, there have been no reports of the bearded vulture, except for doubts that there were one observation of the cinereous vulture. But what is the main cause that this species has these low numbers? The habitat in our country is perfect. It's well maintained. There are livestock, because the vultures are birds who feed on carcasses, on dead animals. So they have the habitat, they have the food, but the main issue remains, it's the poisoning. So from the conflict that there might be between the wolves, the predators, other predators, with the livestock breeders, they attempt to poison the wolf. But what happens is that on those poison baits goes also the Egyptian vulture and the other vultures. So what we have done to decrease this and to tackle this issue, this threat, we have built 2 supplementary feeding stations, which now feed more than 50% of the population in Albania. This one here is in the Drino Valley in Gjirokastra, near Gjirokastra in southern Albania. And obviously, these restaurants for the vultures do not serve only to them, but also to other species. There have been marsh harriers feeding, golden eagles, which is also the symbol of our country, and also the ravens or sparrowhawks, hooded crows. On the other hand, to protect the species, we first had to gather knowledge about the implementation of use of poison, and then to start removing this threat in the areas where the vultures were, or also in the other areas. So the construction of 2 supplementary feeding stations was one of the other actions, and the most important is, of course, the relationship with the local people, and we have created this local network of savers of the Egyptian vulture, which is made mostly by livestock breeders, but also by local businesses or veterinarians or just local people. And another activity action to somehow promote the species is the creation of the Egyptian vulture walking trail. The Egyptian vulture, of course, choose the best views in Albania, but also in other countries to build their nest. So having a trail along the territories of the Egyptian vulture is, I think, the best touristic option. So this is already created in Albania, and we'll start testing it this year. Another issue for all the migratory species, not emphasizing one, is the illegal killing of birds. The wetlands of the country are under big pressure by this issue, but also the other fields like agricultural lands for the common quail, or for the rock partridge, the mountains, or so. There is a big pressure, so we are somehow fighting this. And one of the in the broadshed of BirdLife, there were given 5 hotspots for the illegal killing of birds in Albania. We have taken one as a pilot site, and another is taken by our colleagues from AOS. So we are implementing activities, and somehow it has resulted really positive, because the law enforcement agencies have been more on the ground, and the pressure is put in lower levels, but it's still going on in Albania. Some other activities are the monitoring to create the knowledge baseline, direct actions on the field, like the picture that you saw before with the burning of the hunting heights, lobbying to strengthen the framework, the legal framework, and creating a local anti-poaching group. As I said before, the relationship with the local seems to be the key to every every issue, to solve every issue. With the campaigns that we have organized, we had some let's say winnings like this one. There was, because this campaign spread all over Albania and beyond. It reached also the UK in the Independent. There was this issue of vulture wild meat restaurants, which was published during the pandemic time, and it touched many people, and there were many reactions. So this made possible to create this National Fauna Council, which is a body near the ministry, made by NGOs, scientific researchers, hunting federation to take measures on the hunting issue, but also to have a better protection for the fauna species, being them a bird or mammals. Electrocution or collision, it's also one of the main threats during the flyways. In this picture, we can see the bald ibis, which visited the country last winter in December, if I'm not wrong. It was a special visitor because it was extinct many at the 17th century in Europe. And now there is a recovery program by our colleagues in Austria, the Wilddrap team. So this individual was released in that center in Austria. Some of the actions that we are doing to tackle this issue are the studying of mortality of birds caused by these dangerous power grids, installation of dangerous power pylons in these IBAs, important bird areas, installing breeding platforms for the endangered species, and raising awareness on the energy distribution companies. The one bird that has been heard a lot this year is the Dalmatian pelican. The only breeding colony in Albania is in Divjaka Karavasta. They breed in this island that you see in the picture, so it's the last stronghold for that species. So we are doing the most together with our other colleagues and other NGOs, but also volunteers to protect the species. So one of the activities is to maintain the island before every breeding season. The island is maintained, and the level of the island is increased by putting materials, zoning the island with signal buoys and signboards so people will not go in there, and also safeguarding the nest and the park for the illegal hunting or for disturbance. So but now it's being implemented by the park authorities, but we started with these activities from 2013. And this was the place where the guardians of the pelicans would stay in this small place and they used to stay all night during the breeding season. So it's something really special, and that no one would do it, but the one who were doing this were the local people. And also creating a breeding platform. It has not been used until now for breeding, but they are roosting there and also getting the materials that are put there. We used to put the materials for them to create the nest, but they are just taking the materials and sending them to the breeding island, since it's still in a good condition. So these networks that we mentioned before are saving lives. This is the golden eagle. It was collided with power lines. We took it, and it was recovered by our colleagues, veterinarians colleagues. But there have been also cases of collided pelicans, collided or poison buzzards. But even in the cases where we couldn't save the lives, we have gathered information for the presence of different species or for the stuffed birds that were in different bars, restaurants, which is also illegal. And this is also the bald ibis that I mentioned. Our colleagues from the Wilddrap team just told us that the bird is in your country. So we made sure that we went to the site and informed everybody that they should protect it and not shoot the bird. So somehow the awareness was not raised. People did not know the species. The bird get killed somehow because the area had many hunters. As it was mentioned by Stefan, the biggest and the hardest war now for our organization and for the civil society in Albania is to stop the construction of an airport. Like when you hear it, the building of an airport is something good for the economics when someone can just listen in the first place, but then hearing that it will be built in a protected area and in one of the most important flyways, because Albania is part of one of the most important flyways, which is the Adriatic flyway. Birds travel from northern of the globe to southern of it, going to Africa or other places to spend their winter or breeding time and to fulfill their ecological needs. So building an airport within a protected landscape, which has many international recognitions, and it's also part of the flyway, it's not a good idea and goes against all the rules of the environmental protection. So we are, as I said, we are against this airport and we are doing the fight. The Vjosa-Narta protected landscape, as I said, has the status of the protected landscape. It's in southern Albania. It's created by Vjosa River. You might have heard it lately because it's really famous. And somehow it's everywhere requested that this river should be a national park, but of course also its delta should be part of this national park. And what is happening, they are planning to build the airport and other resorts, which somehow goes also a lot of against the national park criteria. It's an important bird area. It's a candidate emerald site. It's a key biodiversity area, fulfills all the criteria to become a Ramsar site. So building, it also has a big population of birds. There are like more than 10,000 birds species, water bird species wintering, water bird individuals spending the winter in this area. Also, this is given by the census. These numbers are given by the national census. And it's also important for many breeding species. For instance, for the avocets, which is the only, in Narta Lagoon, is the only place that they breed. And somehow you might know this species because it's the logo of Royal Society of Protection of Birds in UK, which is really famous and has reached what we are trying to reach this year, has fulfilled the aim and still goes strong. And also, as I said, it's important to the wintering birds, and it's shelter for more than 64 birds of the EU directive. Albania aspires to become a EU member, and so it has to apply and to implement all the directives given for the nature protection by the European law. And this, as I said, is shelter to more than 64 bird species included in the Annex 1 of the Bird Directive, and also it's home to shelter more than 10,000 wintering birds. On the picture, you'll see the sandwich tern and also the dunlins. But to protect all these, as I said, these species of birds, there should be strong, really strong data and sorry, I was seeing the chat. The really strong data and arguments, scientific arguments. So for this, we are doing the inventory of breeding birds in different areas. We do not have a common bird monitoring scheme in Albania yet, but we are working on it. Other monitoring of important birds are the monitoring of collared prating coil, which I will also show you a picture later because I didn't describe it, the issue with this bird in the first picture because it was presented in the first slide. The bird ringing, the monitoring of Egyptian vulture, white stork, and the migratory birds. Wait, I have an issue. I have to. Sorry. Okay. It was stuck, so now it's working again. So during the breeding inventory, the breeding birds inventory, we got to see views like this. So this is the part of our work being really lucky. So these are the common terns, the little tern. The common tern is on the back and the little tern is with the yellow beak. Here is it's a view of near the biggest roosting site of lesser kestrels in Albania. And this roosting site is also the biggest roosting site in Europe. Lesser kestrels do not breed in Albania, but they can be seen during late August and September in the time when they gather to go on migration. And these roosting sites are really important. And as I said, Albania has the biggest one in Europe, and there in this roosting site, which is in Drino Valley, have been counted around 6,000 individuals of the lesser kestrel. And it's this species here. And as I said, one important action that gives information on the migration is the ringing of the birds. So we have started the ringing, and this picture is from Prespa Lake, as it's our main site for this activity. And in the picture is the bearded reedling. To protect the habitats and the species, it's not enough to be involved just the staff of PPNEA or staff of other organizations and experts and scientists, but we have to show to people that birds are important because it's obvious that they are beautiful. So what we are doing is that we aim to bring people more in touch with birds with doing activities such as programs such as the Bird ID course and Bird On course. The Bird ID has been implemented by PPNEA in 2018, and Bird On was just started just last year. On the other hand, we have been increasing the capacities of our staff, like it was done with me before, and there is also new staff coming in PPNEA. So this is one of our main actions or activities. And the collaboration with local and foreign touristic agencies. I can mention here Balkan Tracks, which is an UK agency in UK, which has supported and somehow has started these bird watching tours in Albania, and to promote also the work of PPNEA, and conducting and participating in activities that include citizen science. A big turn on the protection of birds, in my opinion, and that we really are happy that it was created, was the Albanian Bird Guide. It's the first full Albanian Bird Guide. It had, when it was created, it had 360 and 360 birds. But now the bird species of the list of Albania are, as I said, increased. There are new observations, so it has to be updated, but there are like only 9 species missing or 10 species missing. Other activities that are implemented around the world and also in Albania by PPNEA and other organizations are Spring Alive, Flight for Survival, the global birding, which is, I guess, it's really famous in UK and is initiated there. World Migratory Bird Day, World Wetlands Day, Pelicans Day, etc. And where we participate are also, these are scientific work that we are giving our contribution to have these schemes in Albania. It's are the International Winter Count, the Pelican Census, the European Breeding Bird Atlas, and the contribution to create the red list of flora and fauna. The innovation is something that is helping us a lot, and in nowadays it's giving also to all of us the opportunity to have also activities like this one that we're having. We have put live streaming cameras in the nests of white storks and also in the feeding station of the Egyptian vulture. So these are some views from the white stork nest. This is from the Egyptian vulture, from the other feeding station, not the one that was mentioned in the first slide, but this is the other feeding station. Also, this is the other camera of the nest of white stork that we have. Social media is really somehow a tool that it's being used to attract people, and we have tried to do so, especially during the pandemics. It was really important to give people something to do, and we just opened this birds challenge. We said, okay, we can be like, if it does not succeed as a attempt, we can, at least we will be 10 people from our organization to do this challenge. But what happened, it went beyond the borders, and people also started doing their own designs, and also BirdLife organizations were involved. So it's something that we also want to keep on doing. And in this picture is the collard pratincore. It's an endangered species. It has the status of vulnerable in Albania, but and 2 years ago we had the chance to find out that there were 2 big colonies, and one of them being among the biggest in Europe with 250 pairs. The population of this species was estimated to be 200 pairs in Albania. So these new findings made it possible to send the population to 500 known pairs. But all the habitats for the species were covered. So somehow we think that that's the right number. But nevertheless, even though the population is good and it's really important in European scale and of course for Albania, these species can go extinct from this moment to the other, because on the habitats of these species are planned development investments, such as the solar power plants in the biggest, as I said, in the biggest colony that was found. They plan to build the solar plant, and also near the colony which is placed in the Vjosa-Narta, they plan to build another solar plant. And on Narta Lagoon, which is the third colony, they, as I said, they plan to build this airport. In the areas that are protected, we are now starting to have this legal battle with the government to fight the mainly the building of the airport, but also the other developments that are planned near or within the protected areas. Some successes that were made are the recovery of Dalmatian pelican population. This population, when we started working on it for the second time, let's say it, or when we started a proper project, because we were doing activities in Divjaka all the time, but there was not a group of action financed to be implemented. So when this group of action financed by NOAA Conservation was implemented in Albania, it started in 2013, and the population was around 34 breeding pairs. And when we finished the project on the late 2018, but also there were activities during 2019, the colony reached the number of 68 pairs, which was somehow going out of the danger phase, let's say. It's still by the criteria, it's called critically endangered, but given the trend that it was going up, we somehow was relieved. But this year, as you might have heard, it has been like devastating for the pelicans, Dalmatian pelicans in Prespa, in the biggest colony. There were deaths of 1,800 individuals. So the population decreased a lot. Meanwhile, in Albania, the population was not affected by the avian flu, which was the cause of death in the Prespa Lake for the Dalmatian pelicans. But somehow there was disturbance, or birds were unable to find food because of the low water levels near the breeding island. The work for the Egyptian vulture started 9 years ago in Albania, and from back then there are many Egyptian vulture territories found. The first monitoring was done based on Ben Hallman's report and the identified territories that were there. So we had the chance to find new ones and have a better view on the territories used in Albania. The breeding platforms for different species, I showed you the white stork platform, but there have been also other breeding platforms, such as for the terns, that have been accepted and used and have served for them to increase the breeding pairs and population. And there have been also first observations of different species, or in different areas. We had the chance of to see the red-necked phalarope this year. It was the second observation in Albania, and it's quite rare. It's somehow accidental in our country, but we were lucky to see it and add it on the list of these important wetlands and arguments to protect these sites. Also, this is we call it the palace of the golden eagle, because there are 10 different nests, recovery nests for the golden eagle. Many thanks for your attention. I hope that you have questions, and I'm open for them. And you might know that the last picture is from the Dalmatian pelican. This is the pelican, sorry, I'm adding a few words more. This is Pelican Johnny, which is a recovered pelican. It was damaged and it was recovered in Divjaka, but it's staying there in somehow the symbol, and you can really watch it from closely. It's staying all the time around the information center.
Well, thank you so much, Johnny. That was an excellent introductory talk, and I think we all know very much more about birds in Albania than we did before. Can I start by asking a question? I'm sure there are lots of others, but I'd love to get one in. I'd like to ask you a question about this airport project, Vjosa-Narta. Is anybody helping you with your project and with your campaign? And I was thinking in particular, you mentioned, of course, that Albania is a candidate to join the EU. Is it not possible to get help from the EU, even though you're not a member? You're planning to join, and there may even be funds that you could get access to help in your campaign.
Many thanks for the question, and it's giving me the chance to give all the background. So about who is helping us, there are international and national organizations being on board. We are now working with Aeronatur and supported by DINFE, which is a French foundation. We are being supported to follow the legal aspect of the case, and we have created a coalition of Albanian civil society organizations, and I can mention there the Eden Center, AOS, the Birds of Albania Center, the Eco Albania, or there are 20 organizations in Albania which are on board to support us in the lobby against the airport. Meanwhile, for the EU, they have that's the best part of these plans, because the EU have mentioned in the last 3 reports for the Albania, in the progress report, in the shadow reports, that this airport raises concerns for the EU community. And also in the last report, they have stated clearly that this goes against the Albanian national laws and the EU directives. So expressing that Albanian government is somehow going against its own laws, but still they are really keen on building this airport. But there have been a reaction also from conventions, like the Berne Convention, the CMS, Convention for the Migratory Species, AEWA, and so there is pressure, and this airport for the moment does not have a permit to construct. So even though they are moving the machineries there, there is not a construction permit yet, and the area, it's, as I said, within the boundaries of a protected area, and also in the middle of a really important flyway, known scientifically and with many scientific arguments. There are like 100,000 of birds passing in a short time during the migration period in that area. So this, of course, would be a disaster for the migratory birds, also the breeding birds.
Well, thank you, Johnny. Now I've got a question written here from Joan Pierce. Thank you for a fascinating talk. You mentioned the impact of avian flu on the pelicans. What are the prospects for their numbers recovering?
We have discussed also with the colleagues in PRESPA, and to have the same view as we used to have every year in PRESPA, because we have doing the Pelican census every year in PRESPA, and during that census we had the chance to see like 400 pelicans or 500 pelicans, which was an amazing view doing the trip around. So this year were only 45 pelicans in the Albanian side. And this, of course, it's affected by the flew. And to go back on those numbers, the estimation is like 20 years, around 20 years, or even more. But yeah, that's from some short assessment that we have done. It will take around 20 years to recover.
Right, there are two more questions here. One is a remark, in fact. It's from Malcolm, who says, thank you, lovely photos. I have to leave now. Now, David Oakley Hill is saying, you and your colleagues have done a great job in a short time. Something tells me that sadly, money will win over nature, even though aviation has been badly affected by COVID. You mentioned Prespa Lakes cross-boundary project. Do you find cooperation is easy with Montenegro, Macedonia, Greece, and Italy?
About the first remark, yeah, there is like the money is really somehow winning over nature lately, and this is a sad news. But as I said, there are still hopes for this airport to be stopped, and we are really doing the most of it. But it's really going in a hard way, because the propaganda is that this airport will give like financial wealth to the people, so they somehow want it. But comparing it with the awareness that was in the beginning when this airport was proposed, and the people that were accepting it, now the people are really, many of the people are really against it. So the number of people going against it is increasing. So there is big hope, and there is hope also on the legal aspect. And the fact that they cannot get a construction permit, even though they are planning to build the airport, tells something. So on the other hand, for the cross-boundary project, for many years, PPNEA, MES, and Society for the Protection of Prespa has created this PrespaNet network, which is, as heard, a network of 3 organizations in the region who are doing joint actions to preserve and to protect the place. So this cooperation has been going for years now, and regarding the experts and the activities to be made there, it is really easy, I can say. Also with the park authorities, the work has been smooth, and for all 3 parts of the lake. But of course, there are some issues like the border crossing in some moment and things like that, when you cannot really cross the border with a boat to do some joint counting, but anyway, the cooperation between the whole organization has been really smooth, going great, and have had big successes lately. And PPNEA from 2 years now have also a local office there, which is somehow a sign of this good transboundary cooperation.
Thank you. Now, I've got 2 more questions for you here. Firstly, from Emily. Thank you for a brilliant and fascinating talk. I have to go now, but wish you all luck in getting the protections for the landscape and, of course, the birds. Cheers, Emily. And then another one, which is from Gavin Kingsmith. And the question is, do you receive government funding, and what external funding?
Regarding the government funding, no, we don't receive any funding from the taxpayers in Albania. So we receive 0 funding from the government money. Lately we have not, like for many years now, we have not even applied, because there are Albania is a small country, I have to say, and there can be these issues when you get funding by the government. You can be or accused, or you can be somehow requested to not do something. For instance, I'm not sure that the government would not. I'm sure that the government would not pay us to protect the landscape and to increase the voice more and to be heard more on that issue. So even also in this moment, at least, other governmental money will help us be stronger on this issue, which is also goes against their plans somehow. The other, okay, what external funding? We are project-based mostly, so we have important partners like PONT, Press Powered Nature Trust. We have CEPF, Critical Ecosystem Partnership Fund, Aeronatur, which has been our partner for many years and has been supporting us. DIMFE, that is some new partner and supporter. Jeff. So these are some that I can mention. There, I wanted to make some slide with the logo of all the partners and supporters, but it would be really big since there are many national partners or all the BirdLife partners. But you can find this in our website, in the annual report. We have published lately our annual report for the anniversary of PPNEA when it reached the 30 years old. So yeah, I didn't want to exclude any of the partners, so I didn't make that slide at all.
Can I ask, I mean, if we, the Anglo-Albanian Association, were to think, well, we would like to give some money to the PPNEA, would you accept it?
We would be really happy, and that would be an example, and we would be happy to promote that for like the general public, because the donation in Albania, it's not something that it's going on for the moment. The donation for nature is not something that it's really supported by the general public. There is, for our organization, there is huge support in, let's say, moral terms. They are coming in activities and supporting and giving us strength to do more, but not support on donation. And yeah, we would accept it. And there is also a donation place. We are receiving from sporadic cases from foreigners, from people abroad, but as I said, not really from within the country.
Sorry, what do you mean a donation place? You said you have a donation place.
Oh, okay. Sorry, maybe I expressed myself wrong. A donation slide, or let's say a window for donation in the website of PPNEA.
I see. Mm-hmm. Well, we will talk among ourselves, and obviously, if we can help in any small way, we would. I think we would like to find ways of doing so. But I'll get back to you on that. I've got another question, another two questions here for you. One from John Watkins. Doesn't MTE have a brief to protect nature? Difficult to see how that is supposed to work when it is also promoting tourism. That's one question. Now, one more from David Oakley Hill. Thanks very much. Do you work with other organizations that protect nature in Albania, or international ones like WWF?
I'm starting with the first. I think the moment that the Ministry of Environment became the Ministry of Tourism and Environment was the moment that the nature started going downhill. That's because, exactly as the question says it, they are promoting tourism, and somehow the great tourism, such as resorts and airports. And they are saying that they want to build the airport to promote tourism and to have more tourists in the country. But on the other hand, they are destroying one of the best assets, natural assets of the country. And what I forgot to say is that Narta Lagoon for sure is the best bird watching site in Albania. For tourism purposes, this is the best option when you can see a lot of species in a small area. You can go in the Salinas or in the lagoon, and the forest is near, so there is perfect for. It's also for students. It's like a classroom, so it can help. But they are somehow destroying it for the sake of tourism, even though it's a jewel for the tourism. So yeah, it's hard to work like that when they are also promoting tourism. Meanwhile, for the second questions, yes, we are working with WWF. We are working really closely with WWF, and they have been supporting us for the protected areas. We are doing this program of protected areas for nature and people, and they have been really keen, and they have also been included in the Narta case with the supporting of small actions which will have, I think, a big impact in the end. So yes, we are working with international ones, and that's why I didn't make the slide, because somehow I could forget one, as I did with expressing those organizations who support us.
And there's now another question from David Oakley Hill. There are examples in other countries of ecotourism. Can you use these to influence government?
I think that we have brought in the table, and I'm sure we did, that we have brought in the table many ecotourism examples, and they are being also promoted by the government for other areas, or even for this area. Let's say many parts or good things of the Narta Lagoon are promoted by the government, or even the species, the flamingos, which is like, it's the only place in Albania where flamingos attempt to breed, and you can see them in big numbers, such as like 3,000. We have counted 3,000 flamingos there, and that's a number that it's constant, not sporadic. So they have promoted this, they have posted in all their social medias, the Prime Minister itself. But in the end of the day, when it comes to this airport, they are not even telling the truth that this airport is being built within the protected area. They say that it's outside of the borders. Meanwhile, this protected area is inside this airport inside the protected area. So they are really keen. It's not a matter of way to promote the area. So there are a lot of and we are often doing ecotourism activities there. There we are promoting events from the area, but I think there are many details or reasons that they want to build the airport there, and they are not even discussing it.
And we've got another question from Gavin King-Smith. Are you in touch with UNESCO about creating a biosphere?
No, we have not. We have not been in touch with UNESCO for this, to be honest. So yeah, it's a good question, good suggestion.
We've mentioned tourism. I would also mention the fact that there is sort of bird watching tourism. I mean, I don't know whether you actually ever receive groups of international tourists who come specifically to Albania to look at birds and to watch birds. I mean, this could help you quite a lot, I should have thought.
It has started to grow. It started happening even before the pandemic exploded, but during the pandemic, this activity was stopped. Yeah. As I said, we had some collaboration with Pelican, which is a UK agency, and they also had in plans their first groups, but it somehow stopped because of the pandemics. But now it's increasing again. We have supported this activity as much as we had the chance and we could, but still it's not in the numbers that that can change something. On the other hand, for the Narta Lagoon, we are creating this touristic package, which of course will include bird watching, but also other important values that the area has, such as the cultural values, other ecological values. And we hope that this will be somehow something that we give back to the locals and will also raise more awareness on the other side of the country for the bad impact that this airport will have.
Another question here from David Oakley Hill. I'm guessing you have seen the famous painting in Albania by Edward Lear in 1948 of a host of pelicans. How many did you say are on the island now?
This year, to be honest, on the island there, because of the lack of the food and disturbance, there were less than 8. It started with 50 and they were leaving the island, but this was a strange and really weird year for the time of the period of breeding. I mean, for the pelicans, but also for other species, and also the behavior of the birds. So they started leaving the nests even though there were not any big disturbances comparing to the other years. But this, as I said, this abandonment of the island was not due to the avian flu, and from the avian flu in Albania, on the Albanian colony in Vjosa-Narta, there were not more than 4 cases of pelicans' death, as far as I know. So it's not related to the avian flu, and fortunately, this colony was not affected. So the individuals are there. In the last census that we did, we counted 118 pelicans. Were counted there in the Vjosa-Narta. So the number of the individuals remained the same, even though the island was not in the best breeding population this year.
Mm-hmm. We've just had it pointed out to us that the painting by Edward Lear was in 1848, not 1948. The editor of our newsletter rightly pulled us up on that one. But I do recall myself going to the Karavasta area, must be well over 20 years ago, and taking a photograph of pelicans there then. And it was a remarkable sight. And we still have the photograph on the walls in the house we have here. It's very hard to stop the killing of migratory birds in Italy, Greece, Malta, etc. Are you having any success? This is David Oakley Hill again, I think.
Before going to that, on your remark, as I said, the Vjosa, it's the most important coastal wetland just before Narta Lagoon. But the best thing is that if you see, even if you go on the map and check, you will see that it's obviously without any efforts, you can notice that it's the same ecosystem. So it's one ecosystem, even though there are two sites, two different protected sites, and one fulfills the ecological needs of the other. Many of the pelicans are going there on Narta Lagoon to feed and to fulfill their needs. This year we counted 41 pelicans, but there have been cases by our colleague that have been counted like 100 pelicans. So it's really, but on the other hand, the pelicans are breeding only in Divjaka. So this is one ecosystem split it into protected areas. So this airport, of course, will have a huge impact also in the Divjaka bird populations, but also in the world population, since that's the reason that we are ratifying and signing the international agreements and conventions, such as the Berne Conventions and other conventions, because in all the countries there are important sites, and as mentioned in the beginning, these important sites should be protected because the birds are a common heritage. From UK, they will fly down to Albania, and the birds that are used for tourism or other purposes in UK will spend the winter in Albania, which makes it obligatory for us to protect it. And to make that obligation happen, we are signing those agreements, conventions, that Albania is going against them in this moment. Okay, about the David question. In Albania, I don't know if you are aware, we have this hunting ban, which somehow it's turning back to us in a bad thing. That because hunting is not being controlled by the law enforcement agencies. But the good thing that happened is that the tourism, hunting tourism, it stopped in Albania. Italians, which were one of the main poachers in Albania, used to hunt with lure tapes, with recording devices, or during the night, are not visiting Albania anymore for hunting purposes. Cannot legally do that. But on the other hand, in Albania, this is still going on, and the success that we're having, it's in small steps. Saying that we are having the success in our pilot sites. So in the areas where we are bringing the law enforcement with us to control and to take actions, we are having success. But on the other hand, Albania, even though it's a small country, it's big for us, and we lack the financial capacities and human resources to follow all this. This should be, of course, made by by law enforcement and government with their own will, but it's not happening. So what we are lobbying to do now is to create a new hunting law, which will make hunters part of the environmental protection. We are not really being listened now, but we are trying to find the ways to be listened in this. And the hunting moratorium has passed now for the 5 more years, which is just giving some excuse to the government or just some reason or help to say that, oh, there is no hunting because we are on a hunting ban, but meanwhile there are no law enforcement on the ground, and there are no capacities in these agencies to control the hunting in our country. So this should really be between hunters and government. They should find the way and structures to control this activity. There have been cases of success. So the hunting activity was really destroyed in the after the communism regime, this is something good that was back on the day. It was monitored and it was controlled during the communism regime. So by the law back on the day, even though the law enforcement was really harsh on those days, we do not want to promote those ways, but still it's a success story of how the hunting was ruling back on the day. But now, as I said, it's small steps and in different sites.
Well, thank you very much, Johnny. I think we've already had a lot of questions. I don't know whether we've got, thanks very much for all your work and answers. I'll stop asking questions now. This is David Oakley-Hill and wish you good luck. Well, I think we will all reflect that. I think this has been a wonderful insight into bird life in Albania, and we very much support, at least I think we do, we support your campaign to help the bird population. And if the AAA can do anything tangible to help, we would of course like to do so. So can I just say thank you to you, and probably the best way to continue is the usual round of applause, which would everybody like to give a round of applause? Right, very good. I'm sorry we can't join you for a drink now, but
sorry, I didn't hear.
I'm sorry we can't join you in a drink now, but next time, when you come to London, Johnny, we will we'll take you to see the Pelicans in St. James's Park.
Oh, I'd love to do that. So. Yeah, you promised that, and this is recorded, by the way, so keep that in mind. I'll ask for that. And I really want to thank you for listening, all of you, and for all the questions, for giving us the chance to promote the work and to promote birds and the protected areas, and to give more voice to this threat of airport. As I said, it's the biggest war that we're going through now, and somehow it's the worst precedent that will happen to the Albanian nature, since it's a protected area. Building a massive airport, the biggest airport in the country within a protected area, will give them the way open to build anything in the other protected areas. So this is, for us, it's really important to send this message to every ear that can listen. So I'm very thankful that you are here and we're really paying attention to this issue, and to ask questions and to be interested on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. And I hope we will see you again soon.
Me too.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
And remember, our next event is in quite soon. It's next month on the 12th of July.
I'd love to be there too, so.
That'll be the talk about Durres.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah.
In the 20s and 30s. Yes.
Will it be also in Zoom? Will it be streamed?
Well, it'll be. Perhaps Carolyn could tell us exactly how it will. I mean, we actually are doing it here in London because the speaker is here in the UK. So okay. We will probably be doing it at the Embassy of Albania, but we could Zoom it to Albania, presumably, couldn't we, Carolyn?
Yes, the plan is to have a hybrid event. So it will be both Zoomed, and people will be able to attend the event as well in person. And I think we will have a little team of Saida and myself trying to line up cameras, microphones and other things to make sure that everything works for that. So yes, ideally it will be a hybrid event so that people around the world can see it.
But particularly we would be expecting people in Albania wanting to, and in Kosovo indeed, will be wanting to watch.
Yes.
So we look forward to welcoming you again then. Well, thank you so much, everybody.
Thank
you. Bye-bye.
you. Bye.